Hey everybody, how's it going? So, a very common question I get with any of these right to repair lobbying videos, particularly on the more contentious ones where you can tell that one of the opposition lobbyists is lying through their teeth, is that what can I do to help you? How can I donate to you? Where do I pay you? The best way that you could help me, and this is important, is by giving me your time. If 1.1 million of you gave me $1, that would be $1 million, but I'd actually much rather have 5 minutes of time from each of the 1.1 million people that subscribes than even $1 from all of you, although that would be appreciated. The reason is that there's a lot more change that would occur with 5 minutes of your time than with $1 or $2 given to me. So what I need you to do is reach out to your local senators and representatives if they have released some sort of right to repair bill in your state, and try to get as many people on board. If not the person from your district, maybe the person from the district next door. Most people don't even know who their representatives are or how to even tell. Do a quick Google search. Google your zip code or your city or state and go, who are my representatives, and see who shows up, and then start contacting them. If they don't get back to you, show up at the legislative office building and then ask people, oh yeah, when is that person in? Take a sick day from work. You know you don't like doing your menial job anyway. So if you have paid sick days, take a sick day, show up at the legislative building and try and sniff it out, figure it out. It'll be kind of fun. It's like a detective work. You're showing up someplace that's totally new to you and try and figure out, when is this person in? When do you think I could speak to them? When can I speak to their assistant? And see what happens. And if they say no, then look up who represents the district right next to yours and do the same thing again and again and again and try and reach out to them. The second thing that I need you to do, and this is more even important than the time, is to shelve your cynicism. If you give me even $1,000, that is not as valuable to me as one person shelving their cynicism. When it comes to politics and lobbying, most people in my comment section go, you're never going to change anything. Why do you bother? What's the point? Blah, blah, blah. And there's a great book that my personal trainer, who ironically, just like me, is often very cynical when it comes to politics, recommended to me. It was Mario Martinez's Mind-Body Connection or Mind-Body Code or something like that. And in the book, he talks about when your parents tell you that you're going to get sick if you go out in the rain. You don't get sick from going out in the rain. That's not how this works. What happens is when you go out in the rain and your parents tell you you're going to get sick, you're like, oh, I don't want to get sick. Tomorrow's, the first day of summer. I want to have fun. I don't want to get sick. So now you're stressed out because an authority figure that you've learned to trust told you you're going to get sick. When you're stressed, you secrete cortisol. When you secrete cortisol, it acts as an immunosuppressant, so your immune system doesn't do as much work, and then you actually become sick. And once you become sick after going out in the rain, your mind goes, oh crap, they were right. And now every time it rains outside, you're going to be a little bit more stressed about becoming sick, and the cycle just repeats itself. When it comes to politics, people say, there's no point in trying, and then they stay home, they don't write anybody, they don't show up anywhere, and then nothing happens. And when nothing happens, they go, see, I was right. Nothing happened. The lobbyist won. Are you right? Or did you sabotage yourself to make yourself right? Because what people don't seem to realize is that these bills used to show up very rarely. It's like one in New York, one hearing, private hearing or something in New York in 2015, and then a hearing in Nebraska in 2017, and then a hearing in Boston in 2019. And now it's like Maine, Washington, Colorado, Maryland, New York, Oklahoma, I think Idaho is up next, Hawaii. That's a lot more hearings and one of the things I'm noticing now is that, it's funny how when I have 300 subscribers and I'm speaking to maybe 50 people who watch my stuff, there's less hearings than when I'm speaking to 1.1 million of you, and there's 1.1 million people watching my stuff. You putting in your time and effort actually matters a lot more than you think, and a lot more progress is being made now than before. The floodgates are starting to break. The dam is bursting, and the right to repair is eventually going to flow through that dam. But it's not going to flow through that dam if every single one of these 1.1 million people watching thinks, well, there's no point in me doing anything, so I'm not going to try. Well, I'm only one person. No, you're not. You're 1.1 million people, and you need to start acting like it. And the way you start acting like it is by contacting these representatives and saying, what's up? Are you going to pass this bill? Or do you want us to be a co-sponsor of this bill? Oh, this bill hasn't been introduced, so you should check this out. This was introduced in Boston, and look at how it saved them money when it came to dealing with your cars. Do you want to deal with a situation where the only place to get your car fixed is the dealership? They're the only one that can fix it? Have you ever had a situation where you went to the car dealer and you thought it was a $200 problem and they charged you $3,000, and the next time you had that problem, you went to an independent mechanic and they said, give me $50 and it works? That's exactly what's going to happen to everything else. And look, this got signed in Boston in 2012 with cars, and the world didn't end. So how about I get a signature? Be more convincing than I am. Maybe be less of a dick. But you get the point. That's what matters. And if 1.1 million of you actually started doing something about it. And like putting in this little bit of time, we'd be a lot further along. And I think most people don't put that time in because, like me, they're very cynical. And they think that it's not going to get anywhere. But I'm starting to realize just how much progress has been made. And I'm starting to realize how the past 2 years, how that CBC News piece on Apple, how them slowing down the phones, and how this ISO 9240 exclusivity shit is actually starting to get into the front pages and into the hearts and the minds of normal everyday people. And they don't like it. And they're starting to wake up to it. And it's happening very quickly. And if we can continue with that momentum, then something will actually happen. Now, for people who say, well, I don't have time for any of that, can I just donate to you? Absolutely. But here's the caveat. Many people have asked, well, if I give to you using the links below, you'll see below there is a Patreon for recurring stuff. There is a credit card link for one-time donations, and there is a bunch of cryptocurrency stuff for all of the people who have cryptocurrency. Is that I don't separate this out. That's a question I get all the time is, I don't want to give to Louis Rossman. I want to give to Louis Rossman right to repair. I don't want to give to Louis's business. I want to give to Louis the lobbyist. That's not really how this works. I don't have this separated out. I don't have like a Rossman lobbying group and then Rossman repair group. The way that this has worked is that when I started doing this, I was funding it from business revenue. I started showing up at hearings and I was showing up to meet my politicians and take time off work as early as 2015. And I think I put up a Patreon like 2 months ago. I had showed up at many hearings. I've met many politicians and I've lobbied on behalf of this long before this started coming in. Now, if you look at what the Patreon is at now, I don't know if it's like $2,400 or $2,500 a month or something like that. That amount of money is a little bit more than half of what I've spent in the past month on travel expenses. And given that way more bills are being introduced, so last month I didn't see an Oklahoma bill or a Maryland bill or a Hawaii or I think there's an Idaho and Colorado bill now as well. Those travel expenses are going to be going up much faster than the Patreon is going up. So what does that mean? Does that mean that I stop lobbying? Because that's the way this would work if I had this all separated out. If I had lobbying revenue comes in here, lobbying expenses come out of there, then what do I do when it goes down to zero? Do I decide I'm not going to hire a videographer to record the hearing in Hawaii that I couldn't attend? Do I not show up in Maine next week just because it's a work session and not an actual hearing? Do I not show up in Oklahoma? Do I choose between Colorado or Maryland? No, I'm going to show up at every single one of those because this is something that is important to me. And I don't want to make the type of decisions that I make if it's just a pure money in, money out thing. So if it's just pure profit and loss, then I'm going to start making those kind of decisions. I'm going to start thinking to myself, well, that's only a work session, not a hearing. Do I really need to record that? Is that really worth it financially? I don't want to make those types of decisions. I'm making decisions based on wanting to do this the best way that I can do it in the long term. And that's not going to be decisions that I make based on short-term financial shortfalls. So what do? I use revenue from my business to pay for those trips. And this is something that I've been doing for a very long time. When I started doing board repair, I tried buying equipment to do it and I sucked. And then I bought more stuff to try, and then I sucked more. And then I bought more machines that I could practice on and more other types of soldering and microscope equipment to try to get better at. And I still sucked. And then I put more money into it, and then I got good. So at that point, I put maybe $10,000 or $12,000 or $15,000 into it, and I had made $0 back. Most people, if they invest in something and they make nothing back, they don't invest in it 2 or 3 or 4 more times to try to make something back. That's crazy. What I was doing was I was taking money from my screen repair business. I was able to buy MacBook Air and Retina screens at that point at $72 to $90 from LG distributors. Those are the days when everybody else was paying $250 to $300 for them. And I used that additional profit that I had over every other vendor, and I put that into the board repair stuff. And I just kept putting it into it until at some point it paid me dividends. The people that I worked with thought, this is stupid, this is foolish. Pay the person that does the board repair for you in China the $65 to $87 a board he wants and be done with it. Why are you wasting that profit here when you don't have to? I thought in the long term, if I can figure out how to do it here, A, I add value to my business. B, I could have faster turnaround for customers. And C, if that place in China stops doing it one day, I'm not screwed. And that wound up being the right long-term decision. Wrong short-term financial decision, definitely the correct long-term decision. Because now that I can do that, now I can film it. So now I make another stupid decision. I buy this camera and all the stuff I need to be able to record these videos for YouTube. It cost me $6,000 or $10,000 at the time, 6 months before I had YouTube monetization turned on. I record everything. And now people can see. It's not just that I have a website that talks about how we know what we're doing. I can demonstrate that we know what we're doing. And since everybody else is outsourcing it and I'm not, I can demonstrate that I know what I'm doing and that we know how to do it in a way that they can't. And that adds value to the business. That brings in more customers. So I do that. Then the money that I started eventually making from Amazon and YouTube also went to the business. It wasn't going to me personally. About 2 years later, I used the money that I saved up from YouTube and Amazon. It wasn't a lot at the time because I had like 4,000 subscribers. But I added, about after 2 years of that revenue, I put that into buying the clean room bench, that Pure Air VLF48, the PC3000 machine, all the little hard drive tools and all that stuff. And then we started doing data recovery. And the person who started doing data recovery with me at the time said, like, the person who was the manager said, like, do you really want to put like $10,000 into this because some guy who's been working here for a few months said he wants to try it? I'm like, absolutely. And he goes, yeah, but that doesn't make sense. We don't have revenue coming in from that's that high yet. We don't know if customers are really willing to pay that much yet. Why don't you start small? Why don't you buy one of the basic tools and then buy all this stuff? It's like, nope, I'm going to buy this to do it. I'm going to buy all the crap that I'm going to wind up needing later to do it properly. And I did. And in the beginning, it didn't work out at all. In the long term, Steve, the manager, is now doing all of that data recovery, and he's very, very good at it. And he has 80 to 90 drives in his queue constantly. He gets about 3 or 4 drives done a day, and 5 to 8 new drives show up every day. So that wound up being a good decision. But that decision was funded by something else. So the drive data stuff was funded by the YouTube stuff. The YouTube stuff was funded by the border pair stuff. The border pair stuff was funded by the screen stuff. Everything was funded by something else. If I simply said, I'm going to put $2,000 into border pair and see what comes out of it, I would have given up. If I said, I'm going to put $3,000 into YouTube stuff and see what comes out of it, I would have given up. If I put even $5,000 into data recovery stuff and see what I come out of it, what I get out of it immediately, I would have given up. And the same thing is true here. If I say, okay, I'm only going to, what does Patreon make me now? Oh, $2,500 a month. Okay, I'm going to put $2,500 to lobbying, and then after that, giving up. Doesn't make sense. The reason that we're good at the things that we're good at, in my opinion, is not because we're the smartest, it's not because we're the best, but because we made long-term investments. When I looked at border pair or YouTube or data recovery or anything else, I didn't look at it from the perspective of, I'm going to do just this initial investment and then wait to see what comes back from it, and that's it. I went all in, and that's what I'm doing here when it comes to lobbying. I'm not going to make the distinction, well, is it really worth showing up to this place because it's only a work session? No, I'm going to show up to it. I didn't show up at the Hawaii one because the legislators literally told the repair.org people, please don't have people show up from the mainland because it'll look weird and it will look suspicious and it will make them more cautious about the bill. So I didn't show up. Given that they decided to shelve it until 2050, as you can see in the Hawaii link below, I don't feel that bad. I was apprehensive about being on a plane for 13 or 14 hours and not in first class because of back pain that I get after 6 or 7 hours in a normal seat. But given that I have until 2050, I should have time to walk and swim over there before they vote on it. But my point is that any of the things that I've done, the one thing that's made me successful is that I go all in. And I can't really go all into it if I say that Patreon gets directed to an account that I only use for travel expenses and lobbying. And then once that goes to zero, I wait until it goes back up to do what I do. That's not the way that I live my life. That's not the way I run my business. That's not the way I run YouTube. That's not the way I run the services I do. That's not the way I run this channel. And that's not the way that I'm going to wind up running lobbying. It wouldn't make sense. Even when it comes to the border pair videos that I've been doing for the past year. They get 15 to 30,000 views. That after ad block, that's 10 or 20 bucks. I pay high more than that an hour to edit those videos. I would have stopped doing them. And granted, recently I haven't been around to actually physically be here to do them. But when I was, I continue to do them because they help other parts of my business. Every part of the business helps another part of the business. The videos helped the data recovery. Data recovery helps me with right to repair lobbying. Because when I recover a customer's data, or Steve does it and I take the credit for it when I'm swiping the credit card in the front, I tell them we wouldn't have been able to recover your data if we didn't have this little piece of information that's often kept from us and we have to try to find it via these shady means. I was this close to not being able to get your wedding and baby pictures back. If you want to help people like us out, here's a piece of legislation passing. Please take 5 or 10 minutes out of your day to contact your local senator and let them know about your experience. And now they have 80 or 100 emails in their inbox, or people actually showing up from their district to tell them why this matters to them. And that makes me a better lobbyist. Even the videos, that high edits, that I wind up losing money on because I pay him more money in salary than I get back from those particular videos, help me with my lobbying. Because when I show up there, I show up there with authority of having 2 or 3 or 400 recent board repair videos that show that I'm not just someone reading off of a script. I know my stuff, and I can demonstrate that I know my stuff. So when I talk about how this chip is not able to work where this chip used to work, and they don't sell me that chip anymore, it's not shit that I'm making up about a magtrometer exploding like the AHAM lobbyist. I'm not just parroting what someone else told me. I'm speaking the truth, and I can demonstrate that. It makes me sound more authoritative. I found out on my last trip to Albany, and then even the new store is going to be something that helps me with lobbying. So my senator from my home address is signed on. My senator, one of them from my business address, is not. And she suggested, have them come by. What does your place look like? And I said, it's kind of a shithole. But I'm moving, and in 2 weeks, it's going to look very nice. And she says, okay, well, if you have a nice looking place, then invite them by. Have them see that you have 13 or 14 people working there. Have them see that you have customers walking in and out the door saying, thank you so much. You saved my life. You got all my data back. So then you'll get a co-sponsor. So I plan on, once my new store is open, inviting the 2 senators from that district over to my store's grand opening for some robust conversations. So even the new store is going to wind up helping me with my lobbying. Each part of my business kind of washes the other part. Each hand washes the other hand, and all together it makes you clean, if that makes any sense. Every part of this is important for every other part. And don't get me wrong, if I log into Patreon one day and it says $20,000 or $30,000 or $35,000 a month, yeah, we could have some fun with that. I could hire and train some people to be actual real lobbyists that know what they're doing. We could have people so that if there's a hearing in 2 different states at the same time, not only can I have someone recording in both states at the same time, I can have someone testifying in both states at the same time on behalf of Rossman Repair Group. That would be cool. You see that with CompTIA, you see that with CTA, they'll have, or TechNet, they don't have the same person flying around the country, every single location for Nebraska, Maine, California, Washington, and Hawaii. They have a different person in every state. We could have a different person in every state too. I'm not saying I wouldn't do things with it. I'm not saying I haven't had plans. What I'm saying is that the money is not the most important part. Because you giving me money to hire people, there's already people. It's you. You could pay me money that I could then use to hire more people so that this is literally Rossman Lobbying Group as an organization. That would be cool. But realistically speaking, why do I need to do that? Why do I need to solicit money to get more people to show up when I'm speaking to 1.1 million people? I need less than 1% of you to show up to get a favorable result in any of these states. So if you really want to help me, starting Rossman Lobbying Group would be pretty cool. But realistically, I'd rather just bypass the middleman and just have you guys show up. And if we're being honest here, at the end of the day, it doesn't even really matter if I got $0 from all of this. I'm going to show up to every single one of these hearings regardless. I left in the middle of my new store being put together. I forgot to order the baseboard unit. I didn't order the desks in time or a lot of the other stuff, meaning I'm going to open maybe 2 or 3 weeks later just so that I can be present at all these hearings. Because this is important to me. This is what matters to me. It matters to me enough that I don't really care about the financial rationality of the decisions that I'm making so much as I care about this being pushed forward and there being a rebuttal to BS so that no one, not a single lobbyist ever again in my lifetime is telling a senator that a fuse turns a Mac into a PC. So the TLDR, how can you help? Give me time and lose the cynicism. Show up at the hearings, show up at the work sessions. Even if you don't get to speak, when the senators are leaving the building, they're going to be walking to the same parking lot you are. And that's time for a robust conversation, if you know what I'm saying, without the, no bribes though. That is how you can help. Put in the time, put in the effort. At the end of the day, if you absolutely cannot put in any of the time or the effort, links are down below where you can help me out with travel expenses and everything like that. But really, truly, honestly, the best way that you could help me, it's not the money. I appreciate the money. I'm gonna, if I do decide to go to 6 or 8 or 10 lobbying events next month, it would be nice to not lose $5,000 or $10,000 from doing that. But the way you can help me the most is your time. There's 1.1 million of you watching. I'm not speaking to 300 or 400 people anymore like when I first started talking about these issues. 1.1 million people. Imagine if 1.1 million people started speaking to their senators and assembly people, trying to get them to get a vote on this bill all at the same time. Imagine if my viewers from Massachusetts, even 3% of you are from Massachusetts, all contacted your senators and said, I hear that the right to repair bill was not tossed out in committee. Senator, can we get a vote on this issue this session? I want to know when you're making a vote on this issue this session. Imagine if 30 or 40,000 people contacted their senators. We'd have a bill already. That's more important to me than if 30,000 people gave me $5. That's it for today, and I'll see you in the next video. The next video is likely going to be the Hawaii hearing, since I hired a wedding videographer. I couldn't find anybody in Hawaii that wanted to take up the job, so when I was looking for normal video film production people, so I called a wedding videographer, and he's like, yeah, sure, I'll take the job. Most weddings are weekends anyway. So he recorded the Hawaii hearing, and we're going to be uploading that. Even if I'm not able to show up in a state or city, I would like this Rossman Broadcasting meme to go from being a meme to actual reality, to where if there's a hearing at 3 different states all at the same time, even if I'm only able to make one, I want to hire people to make the other 2 so that you don't miss a single piece of lobbyist BS. All right, that's it for today. And as always, I hope you learned something. I'll see you in the next video. Thank you for watching.